The knock comes at 11:40 on a Tuesday, which is its own kind of warning, because nobody good arrives at 11:40 on a Tuesday, and I know who it is before I even reach the door, the way you know a storm has turned toward your house before the first drop hits the window. I open it anyway. Julien is standing in the hallway, light with his hair flattened to his forehead and his jacket gone dark at the shoulders, and he doesn't say anything. He just stands there, dripping onto the doormat my sister bought me. The one that says welcome in a cheerful yellow font that suddenly feels like the cruelest joke in the building. You can't be here, I say, which is true. And which I say anyway. Because some sentences exist to be said even when everyone in the room already knows they won't be obeyed. I know. His voice is wrecked in a way I haven't heard since the summer before the wedding, since the night that started all of this. The one neither of us has said out loud in 18 months. Camille knows T.O. She's known for months. Tough. She told me tonight. I stand in my own doorway and feel the cold air come in around him. And for a second I don't move. Because moving means deciding. And I am not ready to decide anything yet. I just want to stand here a moment longer in the version of tonight where I haven't let him in. Then I step back, and he comes inside, and the door closes behind him with a sound that feels far too final for 11:40 on a Tuesday. He doesn't take his shoes off. Water comes off him onto my floor, and I watch it happen the way you watch, something you know you'll have to clean up later, but can't bring yourself to stop right now. How long has she known? I ask, and my voice comes out steadier than I expect, steadier than I feel. 4 months. He says it like a confession, like the number itself is the crime. She's known for 4 months and she didn't say anything. She just watched us, watched everything. 4 months. I do the math without meaning to. 4 months ago was her birthday dinner, the one where she hugged me a little too long in the kitchen and said, "You look tired, Theo. Are you sleeping okay?" In a voice that I read as ordinary concern and now have to relive as something else entirely. Something that was already breaking and choosing. In that exact moment. Not to break out loud. Where is she now, I ask, at Margot's? Julien's hands are doing the thing they do when he doesn't know what to do with them. Open, close, open again, like he's trying to hold something that isn't there. She told me to leave. She told me to come tell you. Actually, her exact words. He laughs, but it isn't a laugh. It's just the shape one makes when there's nothing else available. She said, "Go tell my brother what he already knows." That sentence lands somewhere behind my ribs and stays there. She knows everything. I say, not quite a question. She knows everything. I look at him, soaked, shivering slightly, though the apartment isn't cold. 18 months of careful architecture collapsing in real time on my doormat. And I think about my sister sitting in Margot's kitchen right now, choosing, after 4 months of silence, to send him to me instead of screaming at either of us. That is not an accident. My sister does not do accidents. She's not asking you to choose. I say slowly, working it out as I say it. She's telling you she already knows what you'd choose. Julien doesn't answer. He just looks at me the way he looked at me the night before his wedding, like I'm a door he's already decided not to open. Except this time the door opened itself 18 months later, soaked through, standing in my hallway with nowhere left to go. I should say, clearly once, what happened. Because the whole story bends around it, and I won't let it stay a vague shape in the dark. It was the August before the wedding. Julien and Camille had been together 2 years, the proposal had already happened, the ring already chosen, the date already set for the following spring. He came to my apartment to pick up a box of things Camille had left at my place, old photographs, a sweater, nothing important, and he stayed for a beer. And then another, and somewhere in the 3rd hour, sitting on my balcony in the particular blue dark that comes right before a summer night, gives up and goes fully black. He said the thing neither of us had said in 2 years of being almost brothers. "I think about you more than I should," he said, looking at the city instead of at me, "and I don't know what to do with that, because I'm marrying her in 9 months. I didn't say anything for a long time. The silence had weight, the kind you could have set a glass on. You should go, I told him, eventually. And you should marry her, and we should never talk about this again. He kissed me anyway, once, on the balcony, in the dark. And I let it happen, for exactly as long as it takes a person to remember everything they're about to lose. And then I pulled back and said, "Go home, Julien," and he went home. And 9 months later, he married my sister in a garden with 200 guests, and I stood at the altar as his best man, and said nothing, because I had decided that August night that this was a door I was closing forever. I did not know then that doors like that don't stay closed. I just thought they did. Camille doesn't call me. She doesn't text. For 3 days, there is nothing, and the nothing is worse than anything she could have said, because I keep imagining every version of her fury, and none of them arrive. An unarrived fury just sits in your chest like a held breath. On the 4th day, she shows up at my office at lunch, which she has never once done in the 4 years I've worked there, and she's wearing the green coat I gave her for her birthday 2 years ago, the one from before any of this, and the detail undoes me more than her face does. "Walk with me," she says. Not hello. Not how could you. Just walk with me like this is a normal Tuesday, and not the day my whole life turns over to show its underside. We walk along the river. It's gray, the kind of gray that doesn't commit to rain or to clearing, and she doesn't speak for the first 6 minutes, and I let her have the silence because I don't know what I'm owed in this conversation, and I suspect the answer is nothing. "I knew before the wedding," she says finally, looking at the water and not at me. Not everything, but I knew something happened. I saw it in both your faces at the altar." "You think I didn't see it?" "I've watched you not look at each other for a year and a half. Theo, that's not nothing. That's a very specific kind of. Careful I don't defend myself. There's nothing to defend. She's right. And being right doesn't require my agreement to be true." "Why did you marry him anyway?" I ask. And it isn't an accusation. It's the only real question I have. She's quiet for a moment, and when she answers, her voice has a steadiness I recognize. It's the same steadiness I heard in my own voice the night Julien showed up at my door. The sound of someone who decided a long time ago exactly how they were going to survive. This, "Because I loved him," she says, "and because I thought if I married him fast enough and well enough, whatever it was, between you two would just close, like a door." She looks at me now, and there's no cruelty in it, only something tired and old. I built an entire marriage as a door. Theo, do you understand how that feels? Finding out 4 months ago that the door never actually closed? That, I've been the thing holding it shut. I don't have an answer that doesn't sound like an apology. And apologies feel cheap here, so I say, the only honest thing available to me. I never wanted this for you. I know. She almost smiles, and it's the saddest almost smile I've ever seen on her face. That's the worst part. Neither of you ever wanted this for me. You just let it happen to me instead. The first wedding anniversary is in 2 weeks. Julien's parents are flying in from Lyon. They paid for the wedding, the venue, half the apartment Julien and Camille live in now, and they have made it extravagantly clear, in the particular way wealthy parents make things clear without ever saying them outright, that Julien marrying well was the last item on a long list of things he was finally getting right. Camille tells me this over coffee, a week after our walk by the river, in a tone so flat it could be reading me a grocery list. The party is the deadline, she says. Not because I'm dramatic, because his parents will be in the same room as both of you for the first time since the wedding. And I am done, holding a door shut by myself. What does that mean? I ask, carefully. The way you ask a question when you suspect you already know the answer and are only delaying it. It means, I haven't decided yet, she says, whether I tell them, whether I leave first, whether I do nothing at all and let the three of us keep performing this for another year. But I know I'll decide by that party. I'm not carrying this past 2 weeks. She stirs her coffee, though there's nothing in it to stir. 2 weeks, Theo, that's the clock. I just thought you should hear it from me, instead of finding out at the party itself. I think of my sister's chin lifted at her own wedding. 200 guests. A garden. A husband she chose with her whole, real heart who was already, quietly, somewhere else. Camille, I say, I'm sorry isn't enough, but I am sorry. I know you are. She finally looks at me directly, and there's love in it, real love, underneath everything else. That's why I'm telling you the clock, instead of just letting it run out on you. You're still my brother. Theo, I haven't stopped being your sister just because I'm furious at you. That sentence is the kindest and most devastating thing anyone has said to me in 18 months. Margot Fontaine has been Camille's best friend since university, and she has opinions about all of this that she does not keep to herself, which I learn firsthand when she corners me outside a cafe, 3 days later, sunglasses pushed up into hair that's clearly been styled by someone who needed the routine of styling it. You need to disappear for a while, Margot says. No greeting, arms crossed. Not forever, just until the anniversary's over. Let her have one clean event with her in-laws before any of this detonates. That's not really your call, Margot. No, she agrees too easily. It's not. But I went through a divorce 18 months ago, Theo, and I can tell you exactly what it costs a woman to be the one who ruined the party instead of the one who quietly survived it. I'm not protecting Julien. God, I'm not protecting you. I'm protecting Camille from being the woman who blew up her own anniversary in front of his parents and got blamed for it by everyone in that garden who doesn't know the real story. There's something almost admirable in how clearly she's drawn her own battle lines, even though I don't agree with where she's drawn them. And if she wants to blow it up, I ask, if that's actually what she decides, then it's her choice to make on her own timeline, Margot says, not because her brother and her husband couldn't stay out of a room together for one evening. She softens, fractionally. I'm not your enemy, Theo. I just watched what shame does to a woman who didn't deserve any of it. And I'm not watching it happen to my best friend, too. I don't fully believe she's right. But I don't fully believe she's wrong either. And that's somehow worse. Etienne lives one floor below me, and he has the specific gift of knowing exactly when to bring wine and when to bring nothing but his presence, and tonight apparently is a wine night. Because he shows up at 8 with 2 bottles and a look that says he's already heard some version of the story from someone. Camille called me, he admits, settling onto my couch like he owns a piece of it, which, 8 years into this friendship, he basically does. Don't be mad. She needed someone who isn't furious at you, to tell her she's allowed to be furious at you. That's a very specific service. I'm a man of many talents. He pours 2 glasses and hands me 1. How are you actually doing under all the catastrophe? I think about it honestly, which is rarer than it should be. Like I finally got caught doing something I never let myself finish doing the first time, which feels worse, somehow. Getting in trouble for the version of the crime I didn't even commit, Etienne snorts. That's almost funny. It's not funny. No, he agrees, grinning anyway. But you said it like it was, which means some part of you is still in there, under the disaster. He looks at his wine glass for a second too long. I had a version of this once, different shape, same basic furniture, a door that should have stayed shut, somebody who got hurt because it didn't. He doesn't elaborate, and I don't push, because 8 years has taught me which doors of his I'm allowed to knock on. Did it work out? I ask anyway. Gently? No. He says it simply, without performance. But that doesn't mean yours won't. Mine's not a prophecy, Theo. It's just mine. He raises his glass. To whatever this is, disaster currently? Something else? Eventually, maybe. It's the first time in a week I've laughed, even a little, and I didn't realize how much I needed permission to. Camille invites me to dinner, just the 2 of us, Julien conspicuously elsewhere. And over a meal neither of us really eats, she tells me something I didn't expect. He talks about you in his sleep, she says plainly like she's reporting weather. Has for over a year. Not your name, not anything specific, just restless, the nights after he's seen you. I used to lie there and watch him and think, that's not about me, whatever that is. I just didn't have a name for it yet. I don't know what to do with my hands, so I do what Julien does. Open, close, open again. I'm not telling you this to torture you, she says, watching my face. I'm telling you because I need you to understand something. I'm not angry that you both have feelings. People don't get to choose that. I'm angry that I spent 2 years being lied to about which marriage I was actually in. That's fair, I say, because it is. And because anything less than total honesty right now would be its own kind of lie. I know it's fair. She pushes food around her plate. Doesn't make it hurt less that it's fair. We sit in that for a while. The specific quiet of two people who love each other and have nothing left to perform for one another. The cutlery, the only sound, a car passing outside, ice settling in her water glass. What do you want, Theo? She asks finally. Not what do you think you're allowed to want. What do you actually want? I look at my sister, who is asking me the one question I've spent 18 months refusing to ask myself. And I find that for the first time I have an answer, even if I'm not ready to say it out loud yet. I don't know if I'm allowed to answer that around you, I say instead. You're allowed, she says. I'm the one who asked. For 9 days, almost nothing happens, and the almost nothing has its own strange texture. Camille is civil to Julien. Julien starts coming by less. Margot stops cornering me outside cafes, and I begin, against my better judgment, to believe this might simply settle. The way weather sometimes threatens, and then doesn't arrive. Julien and I meet once briefly at a mutual friend's birthday, and we manage an entire conversation about nothing. Football, his work, the weather in Lyon. And it feels almost like relief, like maybe the version of this where everyone quietly absorbs the damage and moves forward is actually available to us. She's different with me, he tells me quietly near the end of the night. Both of us holding drinks we aren't really drinking. Calmer, I thought that meant she'd decided to stay. Maybe it does, I say. And for a moment I almost believe it myself. Maybe, he echoes, and there's something in his face. Relief, or the closest thing to it he's allowed himself in weeks. That makes the lie of this calm feel almost merciful, almost worth letting stand. I go home that night and sleep better than I have in 3 weeks, and I let myself believe, just for one night, that the worst of it has already happened, and now we simply live in what's left. The calm breaks on a Thursday, 11 days before the party when Camille calls me at 7 a.m., too early for anything except the kind of news that doesn't wait for a decent hour. His parents moved their flight up, she says, no preamble. They land Saturday instead of next Friday. They want to do a dinner with just the 4 of us before the party, me, him, and them, a family dinner. The word comes out of her like it tastes wrong. They've already decided what this anniversary means, Theo. They've decided it means Julien finally became the man they wanted. I'm supposed to sit at that table and be the proof. You don't have to go. I do, actually. Her voice cracks for the first time since this whole thing started. The first real crack I've heard in her, in 18 months of watching her hold an entire house up with her bare hands. Because if I don't go, I have to explain why, and I'm not ready. I'm not ready, Theo, to say the real reason out loud to his parents before I've even said it fully to myself. I sit with the phone against my ear and feel the false calm of the last 9 days collapse, all at once, the way a building doesn't fall, slowly. It stands, and then it simply isn't standing anymore. What do you need from me, I ask. I don't know yet. A long pause, the kind with real weight in it. But I think I'm going to need you at that party. Not hidden away like Margot wants, actually. There. I think. She stops, starts again. I think I need to stop protecting everyone from the truth at the exact same time. And I can't do that if you're not in the room. 2 nights before the party, Julien comes to my apartment again, dry. This time, no rain, which somehow makes it worse, like there's no weather left to blame for why he's here. I almost told them tonight, he says, sitting on my couch, in the exact spot Etienne usually sits, which feels wrong in a way I can't articulate. My parents. At dinner, I had the words. I had them right there. He looks at his hands. And then my mother said something about how proud she is that I finally settled. And I folded. I said thank you. I let her keep believing it. Why? I ask, not unkindly. Because I'm a coward, he says simply. No self-pity, and it just fact. I have been since the balcony Thieu. I chose the version of my life that looked right instead of the one that was true. And I've been doing it every single day for 2 years. And the worst part is, I'd probably do it again right now if you asked me to just let this go quietly. It's the most honest thing he said since the night he stood soaked in my doorway. And something in me, some old, careful, closed door, creaks slightly on its hinge. I'm not asking you to let it go quietly, I say. I know. He looks at me, and for one unguarded second I see the version of him from the balcony. The one who said the true thing once, and then spent 2 years running from having said it. I think that's actually the problem. Nobody's asking me to be a coward anymore. I just don't know how to be anything else yet. I don't kiss him. I don't touch him at all. I just sit with him in the quiet, the city sound coming faint through the window, and let him be exactly as unfinished as he actually is, because pretending he's already changed would be its own kind of lie. And I am done, finally, with this family's particular talent for comfortable lies. The party is in the garden of Julien's parents' rented villa outside the city, fairy lights strung between old trees, a band playing something soft enough to talk over, 40 guests in their good clothes pretending an entire year hasn't quietly come apart underneath the cake table. I come. Camille asked me to, and for once in this whole story, I do exactly what's asked of me instead of what's easiest. Julien's mother greets me with both hands around mine, warm, oblivious. Thieu. It's been too long. You'll make a toast tonight, won't you? The best man should say something. I look past her to Camille, standing near the band in a dress the color of the garden in evening light, and she's watching me with an expression I recognize. Not pleading, not commanding, just trusting me with the decision. The way she hasn't trusted me with anything in 4 months. I'd be honored, I say, and I watch my sister's shoulders drop half an inch. Some held breath, finally let part way out. The first hour passes in ordinary motion. Toasts from cousins. A slideshow of the wedding. Margot at my elbow at one point murmuring, "Please, for the love of God, don't." Which I choose for now, not to answer. Then Julien's father stands, glass raised, and says the words that are clearly meant as the evening's centerpiece. A year ago, we watched our son finally become the man we always knew he could be. To Julien and Camille, to a marriage built the right way. The garden applauds. Camille does not. She sets her glass down on the nearest table, very deliberately, the way you do when you're deciding something. And she looks at her father-in-law with a calm I've never seen her wear in public before. Actually, she says, and the single word stops the garden colder than any shout could have. I think it's time somebody told this story properly. She doesn't say everything. That's the detail I'll remember longest, that even at the end of all this, my sister chooses precisely what to give away and what to keep. This marriage wasn't built the right way, she says, voice clear, carrying easily over 40 silent guests. It was built to hide something neither of these two men ever finished dealing with before Julien proposed to me. I'm not going to stand here and list it for you, because that's not your story to have, and it's not mine to spend just to make a point. She looks at Julien, and there's grief in it, but no longer any fear. I've known for 4 months. I've spent every one of them deciding what kind of woman I want to be when I finally said something. And I've decided, Not a woman who explodes things to be cruel, but not a woman who keeps quiet to be comfortable either. Julien's mother's hand has gone to her chest. His father is very still. Julien, Camille says, turning to him directly, "You're not a bad man. You're a frightened one who married well instead of married true. And I let you because I wanted it to be true so badly. I helped you build the lie. I'm done helping." She takes a breath, and when she speaks again, her voice softens. Just slightly. Just for him. "I think you should go figure out who you actually are. Not tonight, in front of everyone, dramatically. Just soon, properly. With your whole chest, the way you never let yourself do at the balcony." The word balcony lands on Julien like a struck bell. I watch it move through him, and he looks, for the first time all evening, like a man finally setting something down he's been carrying so long he forgot it had weight. "Camille," he starts. "Not tonight," she says gently. "Now, not coldly. Tonight, I just needed everyone in this garden to stop believing a story I know isn't true. What happens after that is between you and yourself. And eventually, maybe, you and my brother. Not me anymore." The party doesn't end so much as dissolve. Guests slip away in twos and threes, murmuring the kind of careful nothing people murmur when they've just watched something they'll talk about for years and don't yet have language for. Julien's parents leave without speaking to me at all. His mother's face a particular shade of pale I suspect I'll remember for a long time. Camille finds me by the trees, away from the last stragglers, fairy lights swaying faintly overhead in a wind that's just starting to pick up. "You didn't have to do that tonight," I say. "I did, actually." She looks lighter than I've seen her look in months, even with tears still drying on her face. "I told you, the clock ran out. I just decided I'd rather run out on my own terms than wait for it to happen to me. Are you okay?" "No," she says honestly, and then after a moment, "But I will be. That's different. That's better even." She looks at me with something that might be the beginning of forgiveness, not arrived yet, but visibly, finally, on its way. "I'm not doing this for you. And Julien, Theo, I want to be very clear about that. I did this for me. Whatever happens with the two of you now, that's yours. I'm done carrying it. I know, I say. I never wanted you carrying it in the first place. I know you didn't." She touches my arm, briefly, sisterly. The first deliberate kindness she's offered me in 4 months. "Doesn't mean you didn't make me carry it anyway. Both of you did. Just try to be worth it, whatever you decide to be to each other. That's all I'll ask. Be worth what it cost me to set it down." I go home alone that night, and I don't call Julien, and he doesn't call me. And for 3 days there is the particular silence of two people who have just been given permission for something neither of them quite knows how to hold yet. I spend those 3 days doing small, ordinary things, washing the same 2 mugs over and over, reorganizing a bookshelf that didn't need it, standing at my window watching rain that never quite commits to falling. And somewhere in the 3rd day, folding a sweater I've folded on twice already, I understand that I'm not avoiding a decision anymore. I already made it a long time ago on a balcony, and spent 18 months pretending otherwise. The folding isn't avoidance. It's just waiting, the ordinary kind, the kind that doesn't need explaining to anyone, least of all myself. Etienne comes by on the 3rd evening, with no wine this time, just himself, and sits with me while I finish failing to fold the sweater correctly. "You look different," he says, watching me. "Different how?" "Quieter," he says, "but not the bad kind. The kind where someone's stopped arguing with themselves." He takes the sweater out of my hands and folds it properly in 4 seconds, the way only someone who's done it 1,000 times can. For what it's worth, Theo, I think you're allowed to be happy about this, even with everything it cost to get here. That feels like a strange thing to be allowed. Most good things do, he says, right up until you're standing inside one. Julien knocks at 11:40 on a Tuesday, 6 weeks after the first time, and the symmetry of it stops me with my hand still on the latch. Same hour, the same day, almost the same rain starting outside, like the whole story has folded back on itself to show me what's changed. This time he isn't soaked. He's standing in dry clothes, hands steady at his sides, instead of opening and closing with nowhere to land. And when I open the door, he doesn't wait in the threshold the way he did before. "I told my parents the truth," he says, before I can say anything at all. All of it, not the garden version, the real one. He almost smiles. The first genuine one I've seen on him in over a year. "My mother didn't speak to me for 4 days. She called yesterday. She's not all the way there yet. But she called. And Camille filed the paperwork last week. We had coffee after. Actual coffee. Actual conversation. She told me to tell you..." He pauses. And I watch him choose the words carefully. The way you choose something you intend to mean for a long time. That she's not giving us her blessing, because it's not hers to give. But she's not standing in the doorway anymore either. Her words... I think of her on the balcony of my memory, 2 years ago, before any of this had a name. I think of her on that night by the river, telling me the door never closed. I think of her in the garden, setting her glass down deliberately. The way you do when you're deciding something. "I'm not soaked this time," Julien says, watching my face. "In case that matters, I didn't want to show up like an emergency again. I wanted to show up like a choice." I look at him standing dry and steady in my doorway, 6 weeks and one whole storm later, and I find the door in my chest, the one I closed on a balcony a lifetime ago, the one I've been quietly guarding ever since, isn't locked anymore. It just needed someone to finally properly knock. "Come in then," I say, properly this time, not like an emergency. He steps inside, and I close the door behind him, and the sound of it is nothing like the sound it made 6 weeks ago, not final, not the end of anything. Just a door, closing the ordinary way doors close when two people decide to be on the same side of one. "I kept the earring," I say, and he looks at me, confused, because he doesn't know this story, yet, not really. The single earring Camille lost the morning of her wedding, the one I found under the guest bathroom sink and slipped into my pocket without telling anyone. The one I've kept in a drawer for 18 months, as the last physical thing from the day I decided to close every door in my own life to keep hers open. "I don't understand," he says. "I will," I tell him, "give it back to her. Eventually. When it stops being about guilt and starts being just, a thing I'm returning to my sister, because it's hers, I take his hand. The first time I've let myself do that without flinching at what it might cost someone else. I think I've spent 18 months keeping things I should have let go of, and letting go of the one thing I actually wanted. I'd like to stop doing both. Julien's hand is steady in mine. No rain on it this time. Nothing to blame on weather. Nothing to excuse as an emergency. And when he leans in, it isn't like the balcony, hurried and certain to be regretted. It's slow, the way you kiss someone when you finally run out of doors to hide behind. "For the record," he says against my mouth, almost laughing, "I'm never knocking at 11:40 again. New rule. I'm choosing a normal hour from now on." "Good," I say. "I'd like normal hours for once. I think we've both earned them." Outside, the rain that almost started an hour ago finally commits to falling, soft against the window. And for the first time in this entire story, it sounds like exactly what it is. Not a warning, not an ending, just ordinary weather falling on an ordinary night on two people who finally stopped running from each other long enough to let it.